Have you ever felt a strange shift in the room when you share your success? Like the air thickens, the smiles tighten, and something just feels off? You can't quite put your finger on it, but your heart knows something isn't right. That moment of joy starts to shrink. You begin to wonder if you're too much, if you should have stayed quiet, if maybe, just maybe, not everyone clapping is truly happy for you. This feeling is more common than you think. Many people experience it, especially those who are growing, healing, or rising beyond what others expected of them. When you start to shine, when you step into your truth, it doesn't just change your life. It changes how others see you, and not everyone can handle that. Some will admire you silently, some will support you openly, but some will envy you quietly. Some will mask their discomfort with false praise, with kind words that sting, or with silence that screams louder than hate ever could. Envy and falsehood often go unnoticed. They don't show up wearing a sign. They show up as friends, as coworkers, even as family. They show up when you least expect it and hide behind polite conversation, forced smiles, and surface-level encouragement. But deep underneath, there's resistance. There's judgment. There's a quiet hope that you'll stumble, just enough to make them feel better about standing still. It hurts because we want to believe the best in people. We want to trust that those close to us are genuinely happy when we win. We want to feel safe being ourselves, bold, ambitious, joyful, evolving. But the truth is, not everyone claps when you grow. Not everyone cheers when you heal. Not everyone is ready to accept your light when they're still hiding from their own darkness. So why does this matter? Because recognizing envy and falsehood early can protect your peace, your energy, your purpose. When you know the signs, you stop shrinking to fit in. You stop over-explaining, over-apologizing, and over-giving. You learn to move with awareness, not paranoia. With strength, not fear. You stop wasting time wondering what you did wrong, and start standing firm in what you're doing right. This message isn't about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming clear. When you recognize who's really with you, and who's just around you, you can protect your light, surround yourself with real support, and move forward with confidence. You deserve to rise without guilt. You deserve to speak without walking on eggshells. You deserve relationships that don't just tolerate your growth, but celebrate it. So stay with me, because what you're about to learn in the next few minutes could change everything. By the end of this video, you'll be equipped with powerful clarity. You'll learn how to spot the silent envy, the quiet sabotage, and the fake loyalty that might be holding you back. More importantly, you'll learn how to rise above it, not with anger, but with power. Because your peace is worth protecting, and your light was never meant to be dimmed. Envy is not always loud. It doesn't always attack. It often hides behind soft eyes and familiar voices. It shows up quietly, subtle, restrained, but persistent. You can feel it long before you see it. It lingers in the hesitation when someone hears good news about your life. It flickers in their tone when you talk about your goals. It's in the energy that changes, the room that cools, the smile that no longer reaches the eyes. Envy doesn't always want to destroy you. Sometimes it just wants to see you slow down, to question yourself, to fall back into comfort, where they feel safe watching you. That's because envy is born in comparison. Not the healthy kind that inspires growth, but the kind that stings. It thrives in people who measure their worth by the progress of others. When they see you heal faster than they can, succeed where they've stalled, or find joy in places they've only known pain, it doesn't inspire them, it unsettles them. It reminds them of what they haven't done, of what they've avoided, of the dreams they gave up on long ago. You didn't create their envy, you just triggered what was already there. This is why the most painful envy often comes from those closest to you. It's not strangers who feel it most. It's the ones who walked beside you, who saw your broken moments, who knew your fears. Watching you rise reminds them that they could have risen too, but chose not to. And instead of being inspired, they become uncomfortable. Instead of cheering, they quietly compete. Not always with malice, sometimes just with the hope that you'll slow down enough for them to feel better about where they are. Understanding this changes everything. It removes the need to take it personally. You stop seeing their coldness as your fault. You stop blaming yourself for their distance. Instead, you begin to understand that not all pain is yours to carry. You realize that your growth is not a crime. Your healing is not a threat. Your joy is not arrogance. You are not too much. You are simply becoming who you were always meant to be. The truth is, people in pain often project pain, and envy is a loud signal of internal lack. It says, I don't feel enough. I don't believe I can have what you have. I'm afraid I'll never get there. It's never really about you. It's about what you represent. Possibility, change, courage. So when you walk boldly, some will admire you, others will resist you. But both are revealing the same thing: you are no longer average, you are shifting. And that shift is powerful. Let that be your reminder. You're not here to dim your light for someone else's comfort. You're here to shine so brightly that even those lost in their own shadows remember that the light exists. You are not the problem. You are the proof that transformation is possible, and that's exactly why you must keep going. One of the clearest signs of hidden envy is a compliment that cuts instead of lifts. It sounds kind, but feels sharp. It may start with praise, but ends with a sting. You're doing well for someone like you. I didn't expect you to pull that off. You've changed. Not sure if that's good or bad. Words like these aren't spoken to celebrate you. They're spoken to contain you, to remind you not to get too confident, to make sure you question yourself just enough to keep shrinking. This is not love. This is not support. This is a quiet attempt to keep you small. Backhanded compliments are a favorite tool of the envious, because they know that direct criticism exposes them. But hidden jabs give them cover. They can always say you're too sensitive, that they didn't mean it that way, that you misunderstood. But your intuition knows the truth. Your heart hears what their words are trying to hide. And it's time to stop doubting what you feel. You don't need to justify your reaction to energy that doesn't sit right. You don't need to keep accepting poison just because it's wrapped in politeness. These subtle attacks are designed to make you second-guess your worth. And if you're not careful, they'll work. You'll start shrinking your wins to make others comfortable. You'll downplay your progress so no one feels left behind. You'll smile and say thank you to people who secretly hope you fall, but deep down you'll feel the weight. That invisible heaviness that grows each time you silence your truth to protect someone else's insecurity. And that weight will crush your joy if you let it. But there is another way. You can acknowledge what's happening without becoming bitter. You can see the signs without becoming cynical. You can recognize envy and falsehood without letting them shape who you are. It begins with radical clarity, an unwavering decision to stop accepting crumbs of approval in exchange for dimming your light. It begins with choosing truth over tolerance, even when that truth is uncomfortable, because no matter how subtle the attack, your peace is too valuable to sacrifice. You don't need their approval to keep growing. You don't need their support to keep rising. You don't need anyone's permission to become who you were created to be. The people who truly love you will never weaponize words against you. They will never disguise envy as advice. They will never make you feel guilty for your glow. Real ones uplift you in your wins and anchor you in your losses. They don't compete, they complete the space with love. So pay attention, not to the volume of someone's voice, but the intention behind their words. Not everyone who claps is cheering, and not every compliment is a gift. Some are warnings. And the more you trust your spirit, the more clearly you'll see what's real. Your growth will expose many things. Let it. Keep shining, keep rising, and never apologize for either. Some people will never say your name when they speak of your success. They will mention the opportunity, the timing, the luck, but never your discipline, your consistency, your sacrifice. They will speak of what made it easy, not what made it possible. That's how envy hides. It avoids giving credit where it's due. It can't stand to acknowledge your strength, because doing so would mean confronting what they haven't done in their own life. So they water down your greatness to feel taller in your shadow. And if you're not aware, you might start believing them. This is how falsehood starts to creep in, not through direct attack, but through subtle erosion. They chip away at your confidence, one comment at a time. They rewrite the story of your progress to fit their comfort. They downplay your efforts and overstate your advantages. And when they speak of you, it's never to honor your journey. It's to control how others see you. This is not harmless. It's a form of quiet sabotage. Because when others start repeating those same dismissive stories, your credibility gets questioned, your value gets blurred, and your worth gets negotiated in rooms you haven't even entered. But you must remember something unshakable. Your effort is not up for debate. Your growth is not open for revision. You've earned every step forward, and no amount of envy or falsehood can change that. You don't need validation from those who refuse to see you clearly. Their inability to recognize your worth doesn't make you any less worthy. It only reveals the limits of their vision, not the limit of your value. Let them whisper. Let them minimize. Let them avoid giving you the recognition you deserve. Because their silence does not shrink your impact. Your work speaks for itself. Your life is your evidence, and the truth always rises, even when lies try to bury it. Every time you keep showing up, every time you grow in silence, every time you stay rooted in integrity, you're building something they can't touch, and that's exactly why they try to reduce it. Not because it's small, but because it's undeniable. You owe it to yourself to stop waiting for certain people to acknowledge your worth. You don't need their applause to continue walking in your purpose. The moment you stop chasing recognition from the wrong hearts is the moment you free yourself from the emotional chains they've quietly wrapped around you. Chains made of doubt, of guilt, of false humility. Cut them. Walk free. Let your confidence be the loudest response. You weren't created to be palatable to people who fear their own potential. You were created to rise, to stand tall in rooms where your name is left out but your impact echoes. Keep going. Keep building. Keep becoming. The ones who refuse to see you now will one day have no choice but to face the reality you've created, one they can no longer rewrite. They'll copy your words, mimic your moves, borrow your essence, but they'll never credit you. They'll take from your flow and call it their own. They'll mirror your growth, your voice, your path, and somehow erase your name from it all. And still, they'll stand beside you like nothing has changed, like they haven't built their identity on pieces of yours. That's not admiration. That's silent competition, wrapped in imitation. And the moment you begin to rise, they begin to watch, not to celebrate, but to replicate. You can feel the shift. The ideas you once shared freely now become seeds for someone else's performance. The personal truths you poured from your soul now show up in their words without recognition. And when you notice it, when the pattern becomes too clear to ignore, they act innocent, flattered even, pretending it's coincidence. But you know better. Your spirit always knows when it's being mined, when it's being mimicked without reverence. Envy doesn't always look like resistance. Sometimes it disguises itself as inspiration. But the difference is clear. Inspiration acknowledges. Envy erases. They don't want to be like you. They want to be you, without the journey, without the pain, without the process. They want the fruit, but not the root. So they copy the visible, the surface, the style. But they can't duplicate the soul. They can't replicate the depth that came from your battles. They don't know the nights you stayed awake, the years you stayed silent, the strength it took to speak now. That's why their imitation will always be incomplete. Because what you've built was never just about appearance. It was about becoming. You are not here to prove anything to those who pretend they don't see you. You're not here to protect the feelings of people who quietly resent the very growth they're trying to mirror. Your uniqueness is not a threat. It's a mirror to what others have yet to develop in themselves. And that mirror is uncomfortable. That mirror exposes what's missing. So instead of growing, they mimic. Instead of healing, they hide. And in doing so, they stay stuck in a version of themselves that feels safe but never real. Let them copy the steps. They still won't reach your destination, because the real power is not in what you do, it's in who you are. And no one can steal that. You're not successful because of what they see. You're powerful because of what they never will. Your strength lives in the moments no one applauded. Your wisdom came from the pain no one witnessed. That can't be faked. That can't be stolen. That can't be copied. So don't shrink. Don't water yourself down. Don't hold back your truth just because someone else is using it for performance. Keep showing up. Keep growing deeper. Keep creating from the fire only you've walked through. Because they may try to echo your voice, but only you can speak your truth, and that truth is untouchable. One of the most painful signs of hidden envy is the silence that follows your success. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of absence. The people who once clapped for your smallest steps now go quiet when you take the biggest leaps. They no longer reach out. They no longer share your joy. They don't ask how you did it. They don't show up. And deep down you notice. You feel the distance. You sense the space growing between your rise and their retreat. And though no words are spoken, the message is loud. Your progress has become too much for them to witness. It's hard to accept that some people only stand beside you when you're struggling. They felt needed when you were lost. They felt close when you were unsure. But now that you're standing taller, moving forward, breaking patterns, they fade. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your elevation reveals their stagnation. Your growth becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look, so they disconnect. They tell themselves it's not personal. They act busy. But the truth is simpler. Your evolution makes them uncomfortable. False support is easy to fake in the beginning. It sounds like encouragement. It looks like friendship. But it withers in the light of real progress, because real progress tests intentions. When you succeed, people's true feelings get exposed. Those who are genuine will celebrate you louder. Those who are not will disappear. It hurts, but it's a gift. It shows you who's truly aligned with your vision and who is only attached to your past. You don't need people who vanish when you rise. You don't need to beg for support, prove your worth, or shrink your joy to keep people close. Let them go. Let them stay silent. Let them choose comfort over connection, because the ones meant for your future will never be intimidated by your light. They won't compete with you. They won't withdraw. They'll amplify you. They'll remind you of who you are on the days you forget. They'll be louder in your wins than they ever were in your losses. Protect your space from silent resistance, not with anger, but with boundaries, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Refuse to keep those close who treat your victories like burdens. Refuse to carry the weight of someone else's discomfort with your truth. You are not responsible for the emotional triggers your growth may cause in others. You are responsible for honoring your own journey, fully and unapologetically. This is your time to expand without guilt, to shine without asking for permission, to succeed without looking over your shoulder, wondering who's still with you. If they fall away, let them. If they stay silent, hear them. But keep moving, keep glowing, keep rising, because the silence around you says nothing about your worth and everything about your strength. When someone envies you, they rarely confront you. They contaminate you. Not always with open disrespect, but with quiet sabotage. They won't attack your dreams directly, but they'll plant seeds of doubt in your mind when you speak them. They'll ask questions that sound concerned but carry undertones of disbelief. Are you sure that's realistic? Do you really think you're ready for that? What if it doesn't work out? They'll call it advice. They'll say they're just looking out for you. But the truth is, they're projecting their own limitations onto your vision. They don't want you to fail out loud, but they wouldn't mind watching you play small. They feel safer when you're uncertain, when you're second-guessing yourself, when you're looking to them for answers, because in those moments they feel needed, they feel relevant. But when you start trusting yourself, when you start walking boldly in your purpose, they panic. Your clarity becomes a threat. Your confidence exposes their hesitation, and so they disguise their fear as wisdom and hope you confuse it for care. But wisdom doesn't shrink you. Real support doesn't sound like doubt. It sounds like belief. It feels like momentum. It speaks life into your vision, even when the path isn't clear yet. False support, on the other hand, will wrap itself in love while feeding you fear. It will tell you to wait until you're more qualified, more ready, more acceptable. But what it really means is wait until I'm more comfortable watching you rise. You have to learn to recognize the difference. Because if you internalize their fear, you'll start holding yourself back. You'll delay your progress to make others feel secure. You'll question your potential based on someone else's insecurity. And slowly, without even realizing it, you'll be living a version of your life designed to protect someone else's ego. That is not your path. That is not your purpose. You are not here to tiptoe around someone else's fears. You are here to walk fully in your truth, to grow beyond the boundaries others tried to place around you. Your dreams are not up for debate. Your calling is not subject to someone else's comfort, and your destiny cannot be defined by people who've never dared to chase their own. You are allowed to outgrow the voices that once guided you. You are allowed to ignore advice that no longer aligns with your direction. You are allowed to rise, even if it makes others uncomfortable. Let their words reveal themselves for what they are. Not all concern is genuine. Not all guidance is rooted in love. Pay attention to how you feel after you've shared your vision. If you feel drained, smaller, hesitant, that is not support. Protect your vision from those who dress doubt as protection. Not everyone deserves access to your next level. Move with conviction. Speak with power. Trust yourself. Because your future doesn't depend on their permission. It depends on your decision. Keep choosing yourself. Every single time. Some people don't want to see you fall. They want to help you fall. Not with obvious sabotage, but with carefully disguised support that slowly weakens your foundation. They offer help, but there's always a delay, always a mistake, always a moment where things somehow go wrong in your hands but started in theirs. They encourage you to trust them, then use that trust to quietly unravel what you've built. And because you believe they were on your side, it's hard to even realize what's happening. That's how covert sabotage works. It wears the mask of loyalty but moves with the intention of control. You'll notice it when things that should have been simple become complicated. When projects get derailed, messages don't get passed on, deadlines get missed. Always with a convenient excuse. Always with an apology that doesn't feel honest. They'll say they tried. They'll say they didn't know. But the pattern keeps repeating, and something inside you begins to tighten. Your mind wants to rationalize, but your intuition feels the truth. It's not carelessness. It's quiet opposition. It's sabotage hidden beneath a smile. This kind of falsehood is especially dangerous because it operates through trust. They don't tear you down with force. They slowly weaken your foundation from the inside. And if you're not vigilant, you'll start blaming yourself. You'll start thinking you're disorganized, unlucky, or incapable. But none of that is real. What's real is the subtle resistance from someone who never truly wanted to see you win, only to see you dependent, uncertain, always needing them more than they need you. You owe it to yourself to confront this truth, even when it's hard. Not every helper is sincere. Not every outstretched hand is there to lift you. Some are only there to keep you within reach, just close enough to influence your direction, but never far enough to be free. And the moment you begin to gain momentum without them, they panic, because your independence threatens their illusion of importance. You don't need that kind of help. You don't need to apologize for trusting, but you do need to take responsibility for protecting yourself now. Pay attention to who shows up when you're strong versus when you're struggling. Watch how people handle your power. True supporters add fuel to your fire. False ones throw water when no one's watching. Choose accordingly. Start building relationships with people who don't flinch at your progress. People who don't need to control your journey to feel valuable. You deserve alignment, not attachment. You deserve teammates, not secret saboteurs. Your path is too important, your purpose too urgent, to keep letting quiet envy sit in the passenger seat. You're allowed to let go of those who slowed you down while pretending to push you forward. No guilt, no explanation, just clarity. Because your life will expand in direct proportion to the truth you're willing to face. And once you see who they really are, it's your responsibility to move differently, move wiser, move freer, move forward, unapologetically. There are people who will never say it out loud, but they feel relief when you struggle. They won't show it on their face, but inside, they're comforted when life humbles you. When things go wrong for you, they finally breathe easy. Not because they hate you, but because your setbacks make their stagnation easier to accept. Your pain gives them permission to stay still. Your silence makes their fears feel justified. And when you fall, they feel less alone in their failure. That's not friendship. That's quiet resentment disguised as proximity. And it's more common than you think. You'll notice it in the shift of their energy. When you're celebrating, they're distant. When you're hurting, they suddenly become present, engaged, available. Not to support, but to observe, to listen just a little too closely. To ask questions that feel more curious than compassionate. It's not comfort they bring. It's confirmation. Confirmation that you are not invincible. That you too are breakable. And that brings them peace. Not because they want you gone, but because they couldn't handle watching you grow while they remained unchanged. You don't owe these people access to your vulnerable moments. You don't need to let them sit in your storm just because they disappeared in your sunshine. Not everyone who stands beside you during pain deserves a seat at your table during progress. Some only show up when you're down because it's the only time they feel tall beside you. That kind of presence is not love, it's self-preservation. And you must learn to tell the difference. Real support is consistent. It doesn't shrink in the light or thrive in the dark. It walks with you through both. It claps when you win and covers you when you fall. It doesn't seek to be needed. It chooses to be near. False support, however, is conditional. It needs your weakness to feel worthy. It needs your wounds to feel wise. And when you heal, it loses its role. That's why some people quietly hope you never outgrow your struggle, because your healing threatens their identity. But you were not created to stay broken just to make others comfortable. You are not required to dull your strength to keep someone else from feeling small. Their peace cannot come at the price of your potential. You must give yourself permission to rise, even if it means rising alone. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them question your pace. Let them watch in silence. But don't stop. Don't shrink. Don't slow down to soothe their insecurities. Your healing is not a betrayal. Your success is not a crime. Your light is not a threat to those who are truly whole. So rise with power. Heal without guilt. Shine without shame. Because the ones who are meant for your journey will never be more comfortable with your pain than with your progress. Keep choosing growth. Keep choosing truth. And never let the quiet envy of others silence the unstoppable power within you. There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from failure. It comes from realizing someone was never truly for you. Not when you lost, not when you struggled, but when you finally started to win. Their mask doesn't fall during your storms. It slips the moment your skies begin to clear. That's when you see it. The envy, the bitterness, the hidden judgment that's been waiting beneath polite smiles and shallow support. Because the truth is, nothing reveals false loyalty faster than your success. When you elevate, it disrupts their illusion of closeness. And instead of celebrating your rise, they resent it. You can feel it before you can explain it. The jokes turn colder, the compliments grow quieter, the energy shifts. Suddenly, everything you do feels like a competition you never entered. They compare your progress to theirs, even when you're not measuring. They keep score in a game you're not playing. And slowly, you begin to sense that your joy has become their discomfort. that your momentum feels like pressure to someone who's standing still. You never meant to outgrow them. But growth has a way of exposing who is never growing with you, and this is where many people get stuck. They dim their light to keep the peace. They water themselves down to stay accepted. They downplay their blessings to avoid becoming the target of envy. But every time you shrink for someone else's comfort, you abandon the version of you that was finally ready to rise. You start walking on emotional eggshells, apologizing for things you've earned, questioning the very path that brought you out of the dark. And in doing so, you trade your breakthrough for approval. That's not humility. That's fear disguised as loyalty. You are not made to be small. You are not made to hide what's healing or hush what's becoming. The people who truly love you won't flinch when your light gets brighter. They won't compete with you. They won't pull back. They'll cheer. They'll rise with you. And if they can't, they'll respect you anyway. But those who grow distant when you grow stronger have already revealed their truth. It's not your change that hurt them. It's your courage. Because your courage reminds them of everything they've postponed. Everything they could be but haven't chosen to become. Let that be your clarity. You don't need to shrink to keep false connections. You need to rise to find real ones. And yes, rising means risking loss. But what you lose in false comfort, you gain in truth. You gain peace. You gain alignment. You gain the power of walking with people who don't need you to be less in order to love you more. So stop shrinking. Stop apologizing. Stop explaining your light to those committed to darkness. You're not too much. You're becoming everything you were born to be. Let them fall away if they must, because what's real will never fear your rising. It will only rise with you. There's a quiet war that plays out in passive aggression, not with raised voices or obvious betrayal, but with small, calculated choices meant to unsettle you. The joke that cuts deeper than it should, the compliment with a bitter edge, the long pauses before giving you praise, the withheld encouragement when you needed it most. These are not accidents. They are deliberate signs of inner conflict, resentment wrapped in restraint. The person who can't support you directly may choose to undermine you silently, and they'll call it honesty, humor, or just being real. But you'll feel the heaviness. You'll sense the tension. Passive aggression is one of the clearest indicators of hidden envy. It thrives on ambiguity, feeding on your willingness to doubt yourself. It forces you to question what you heard, what you saw, what you felt. It's psychological manipulation disguised as harmless behavior. It trains you to second-guess your own instincts, to overlook disrespect because the damage seems minor. But repeated cuts, no matter how small, will eventually bleed you dry if you keep pretending they don't hurt. Your spirit knows when someone is masking their hostility behind sarcasm and smiles, and it's time to stop ignoring that truth. You're not imagining it. The energy doesn't lie. When someone is uncomfortable with your progress, they rarely confront it directly. Instead, they'll distance themselves emotionally while staying physically close. They'll support you publicly, but criticize you privately. They'll show up, but they'll never show up fully, and every interaction will leave you feeling unsettled, drained, confused. That's the purpose, not to destroy you, but to destabilize you just enough to keep you uncertain, because uncertainty keeps you dependent, and dependency keeps them relevant. You don't need that kind of relationship. You don't need to decode someone's intentions every time they speak. You don't need to walk on emotional landmines to keep a connection alive. If love has to be translated, it's not being communicated. If support feels like a performance, it's not real. You deserve clarity. You deserve peace. You deserve people who celebrate you with open hearts, not half-hearted jabs. Stop accepting cruelty just because it's subtle. Stop mistaking tension for loyalty. Just because someone remains in your life doesn't mean they're on your side. And just because they don't say the wrong thing out loud doesn't mean they're not thinking it. You have the right to outgrow dynamics that drain you. You have the right to walk away from people who refuse to speak life into your journey. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not cruel for honoring your intuition. Let the passive aggression be your answer, not your punishment. Let it reveal what you were never meant to carry. You were not born to absorb the bitterness of others. You were born to rise, fully and freely, and anyone who can't handle your truth without shrinking into sarcasm has already told you who they are. Believe them, release them, and keep moving toward the freedom your soul was always meant to claim. There comes a moment when you must stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Not because you're angry, not because you want to prove something, but because you finally realize that some minds are closed by choice, and some hearts are too guarded to receive your truth. Envy does not seek clarity. It does not ask to understand. It only looks for flaws, missteps, or any small imperfection it can use to justify its discomfort with your growth. When someone is envious, They're not watching your actions to learn from them. They're studying them to discredit them. This is why you must pay attention to how people react when you speak from your heart. Do they lean in with respect, or do they twist your words into weapons? Do they support your goals, or do they subtly remind you of your limits? Every time you open up to someone, you are giving them the blueprint to either build with you or break you. Not everyone deserves that access. Not everyone will honor it. And the more you grow, the more intentional you must be about who you allow into the inner circle of your life. You do not owe vulnerability to those who use it as ammunition. You do not owe kindness to those who only see it as weakness. You are allowed to protect your spirit from environments that drain your power. You are allowed to set boundaries that disappoint those who never truly valued you. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. It will feel like loss. It will make you question whether you're being too harsh, too cold, too distant. But protecting your peace is not cruelty, it's wisdom. And wisdom is not always loud or likable. Sometimes it's silent and firm. When someone refuses to celebrate your healing, your peace, your progress, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their unresolved wounds. Some people resent your growth because it reminds them of everything they've chosen not to face. Your courage becomes a mirror, and they don't like what it shows them. But you are not responsible for their reflection. You are not here to shrink so others can avoid their shadows. You are here to rise, to expand, to become all that your soul is capable of becoming. Let them misjudge you. Let them gossip. Let them twist your intentions. You do not need their understanding to be free. You only need your own alignment. Your power is not in proving your purity to those who are poisoned by their own fear. Your power is in staying grounded in who you are, even when others try to define you by who you used to be. You do not belong to their projections. You belong to your purpose, and purpose does not beg for approval. It stands tall in truth, unwavering, unshaken, and unwilling to be dimmed by anyone who refuses to see the light. Keep walking, keep growing, keep shining. Your clarity will always speak louder than their confusion. Silence is not always peace. Sometimes it's punishment. Sometimes it's the calculated response of someone who wants you to feel invisible. When envy settles in someone's heart, they often don't lash out. They withdraw. They stop acknowledging your wins. They stop asking about your life. They disappear in moments when their presence would mean everything. This silence isn't quiet because it's calm. It's quiet because it's loud with resentment. And when you feel that cold absence in someone who once celebrated your presence, you must understand. It's not your success that's changed the dynamic. It's their inability to accept it. One of the most overlooked forms of falsehood is silence during your rise. People who smile with you in your struggle, but go silent in your breakthrough, reveal more than words ever could. Their energy says it all, not clapping when you win, not cheering when you level up, not offering love when you need it the most. Envy doesn't always look like a threat. It can look like distance. It can look like disengagement. And if you're not careful, you'll internalize that silence and begin to question your worth. But their silence is not your shame. It's their shadow. You must stop chasing noise from those who refuse to make sound when it matters. You must stop begging for validation from people who only loved you when you were beneath them. The ones who vanish when you evolve were never there for you. They were there for the version of you that didn't make them uncomfortable. They could manage your pain. They could handle your confusion. But your clarity, your power, your light, that threatens them. It highlights everything they haven't yet chosen to become. And rather than confront that truth, they retreat and pretend you changed. You didn't change. You grew. There is nothing wrong with evolving past the comfort of people who don't want to grow with you. Your light isn't too much. It's just too honest for those still hiding in the dark. And your journey will expose what people never had the courage to admit. They were never rooting for your highest self. They were comfortable with your silence, your settling, your smallness. But now you speak with certainty. Now you move with direction. Now you live with purpose. And they cannot hold space for that because it reflects everything they deny in themselves. Let them fall silent. Let them pull away. Let their absence teach you what their presence never could. You don't need everyone to clap. You don't need everyone to stay. You only need to stay true. The noise of your life will not come from forced applause. It will come from your inner truth echoing louder than anyone's withdrawal. You are not here to shrink for silence. You are here to rise through it. And every time someone grows quiet around your greatness, use that as confirmation. Not of their rejection, but of your becoming. Keep walking, keep growing, keep glowing. The right people won't just notice, they'll rise with you. Envy doesn't always enter your life through conflict. Sometimes it walks in smiling. It comes dressed as support, cloaked in compliments, pretending to be admiration. But behind the kind words, something doesn't feel right. The energy doesn't match the message. You hear praise, but it feels hollow. You sense warmth, but it's cold underneath. Because when envy hides behind flattery, it becomes one of the most dangerous forms of deception. It's harder to detect, it's harder to confront, and it's harder to walk away from. But you must. Because no matter how sweet the words, if the spirit behind them is poisoned, you're being slowly betrayed. When someone praises you with their mouth but competes with you in their heart, that's not support. That's sabotage wearing a mask. They say they're proud of you, but their tone is strained. They say they're inspired by you, but their actions tell another story. They mimic your moves, not because they admire your path, but because they want your spotlight. They want your results without your sacrifice. And deep down, they don't want you to stay ahead. They want you to slow down. They want you to fall back, so they can feel like they're rising without moving. You must learn to read the truth behind the words. Don't just listen with your ears, feel with your instincts. Watch what they do when no one's watching. Observe how their energy shifts when you win. Do they celebrate with full joy, or do they offer compliments that feel forced? Do they offer help when you need it, or only when it benefits their image? Do they correct you in private with love, or criticize you in public for attention? Real support is honest, even when it's uncomfortable. Real support shows up with no agenda. False support is always keeping score. You were not born to be a project for people's hidden insecurities. You were not made to dim your greatness to keep envious hearts comfortable. The presence of false praise is not a compliment, it's a red flag, and you owe it to yourself to protect your spirit from those who smile with their lips, but compete with their eyes. There is no peace in performing for people who only applaud when they think you're beneath them. You don't need that kind of attention. You need alignment. You need truth. You need connection that strengthens, not comparison that weakens. There is power in walking away from false affirmation. There is freedom in trusting your inner radar. Your growth will attract all kinds of energy, some genuine, some jealous. But your job is not to manage their feelings. Your job is to guard your mission. The more you rise, the more subtle the envy becomes. But subtle doesn't mean harmless. And when you sense it, don't ignore it. Don't justify it. Don't excuse it. Just move forward. With clarity, with peace, with conviction. Because your life is too valuable to be surrounded by those who cheer with envy in their hearts. There's a unique kind of silence that follows your success. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels heavy, like something unsaid is hanging in the air. You begin to notice that certain people who once called often now barely check in. Their absence speaks volumes. It's not always what people do that reveals envy. It's what they stop doing. They stop supporting. They stop encouraging. They stop celebrating you. Not because you changed, but because your growth became a mirror to their stagnation. And instead of being inspired, they chose to feel threatened. They chose distance over support, silence over sincerity. Envy doesn't always explode. Sometimes it quietly withdraws. It quietly resents. It quietly waits for you to fail, not out of malice, but out of deep insecurity. Your progress makes them uncomfortable. Not because you've wronged them, but because your light exposes the shadows they've been avoiding. And when people feel exposed, they either grow or they retreat. Many will retreat, and when they do, they'll leave a gap, a space where love once lived, a space where laughter used to echo, and that space will hurt. It will sting, because rejection, even when it's silent, still cuts deep. But don't let that silence shake you. Don't take it personally. Take it as confirmation that you're stepping into territory that not everyone is prepared to walk with you through. You're leveling up, and not everyone is equipped to handle your evolution. Some relationships were built on your former self. They were rooted in your struggle, not your success. They knew how to comfort you in brokenness, but not how to support you in greatness. And when you start winning, you realize they were never really clapping for you. They were clapping for your limitations, because that's where they felt superior. You owe it to yourself to recognize this truth without bitterness. Don't beg for validation. Don't chase after ghosts. Let those who cannot handle your light fade into the background. Let them go without anger. Let them go with peace. Their silence is not your failure. It's their fear. And fear is not your burden to carry. Your path is calling for stronger, more secure, more present people. People who aren't threatened by your rise, but fueled by it. People who cheer, not just when you're down, but especially when you're flying. There is strength in solitude when you know your worth. There is clarity in separation when you trust your path. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to understand yourself. Your energy is too sacred to waste on those who shrink when you shine. Don't slow down to make them comfortable. Don't dim to make them stay. Keep rising, even if it means rising alone for a while. The ones meant for you will rise too, and when they do, there will be no silence, only shared celebration, mutual elevation, and unwavering loyalty. Keep going, Keep glowing. Keep growing. You'll begin to notice how certain people disguise their envy as concern. It sounds like caution, but it's actually doubt. They say things like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" Or "Don't get your hopes up too high." They're not protecting you. They're projecting their own limits onto your potential. Their words carry fear, but it's not your fear, it's theirs. And when you absorb it, you shrink. Not because you don't believe in yourself, but because someone you trusted has planted seeds of hesitation in your mind. That's how envy hides. Beneath the mask of advice, beneath the tone of care, beneath a fake smile that's hoping you won't rise too far above them. When someone feels the need to water down your dreams, what they're really doing is trying to control a version of you they can still feel comfortable around. But your path isn't meant to fit their comfort zone. You weren't born to live within the expectations of those too afraid to break out of their own cages. When you chase something big, something bold, something beyond the norm, you stir up the insecurities of those still anchored in fear, and that's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to protect your vision from those who secretly want to see it fall. It takes courage to trust yourself when others don't. It takes strength to keep going when the voices around you are laced with doubt. But the truth is, the louder the external noise, the more vital it becomes to strengthen your internal voice. Your intuition knows the way. Your heart recognizes what's right for you, and no one else has to see it. They don't have to believe in your journey for it to be real. They don't have to support you for it to succeed. But you do have to stop letting their hidden envy dictate your decisions. When you start moving with clarity, those who benefited from your confusion will feel the shift. When you speak with power, those who fed on your silence will feel exposed. And when you rise with conviction, those who doubted you will look for ways to pull you back, not always through direct attack, but through subtle discouragement disguised as realism. Be aware, not paranoid, just aware. Know the difference between someone who wants the best for you and someone who wants you to stay where they are. One builds, the other binds. One empowers, the other controls. If you keep waiting for everyone to be ready for your next level, you'll never leave the one you're stuck in. Not everyone has the capacity to rise with you, and that's okay. Your growth will make some people uncomfortable, and your peace will confuse those addicted to chaos. Don't trade your progress for approval. Don't lose your voice trying to make others feel heard. The people meant for you won't question your rise. They'll rise with you. Stay focused. Stay grounded. Trust the power within you more than the noise around you. Not everyone will clap when you rise. Some will stay silent, not because they don't see you, but because your growth forces them to confront their own stagnation. Your courage highlights their hesitation. Your strength magnifies their excuses. And while part of you may crave their applause, you must remember, external validation is not the measure of internal truth. You do not need permission to honor your potential. You do not need applause to confirm your worth. The applause that truly matters comes from within, in those quiet moments when you know you didn't settle, when you know you kept going, even when no one saw, even when it was hard, even when your heart was tired. The world will try to sell you comfort dressed as happiness, but comfort zones are rarely safe. They're just familiar, and familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. You weren't meant to coast. You weren't built to blend in, to shrink, to hide from the very light that was placed inside you. That tension you feel, that unrest, it's not weakness, it's a signal. It's life pulling at you, begging you to wake up to the parts of yourself you've buried under fear, under doubt, under the pressure to be who others expect. You owe it to yourself to become more than what they imagined. You owe it to your future to stop carrying the weight of everyone else's comfort. You can't carry the past and still reach for the future. You can't hold on to every version of yourself and still become who you were meant to be. Growth requires release. Elevation demands that you let go. Some relationships, some beliefs, some habits, some identities. The more you cling to what's no longer aligned, the heavier your steps will feel. And no, it won't be easy. Letting go rarely is, but staying stuck in a life that drains you is far more painful. You weren't born to repeat cycles. You were born to break them. Every time you choose growth over comfort, healing over hiding, purpose over popularity, you get stronger. Even when it doesn't look like progress on the surface, something powerful is building underneath. Discipline, clarity, vision, all the things success is made of, forged quietly in the background while the world is distracted. That's where transformation happens, in the decisions you make when no one is watching. In the moments you choose your future over your fear, in the silence where doubt tries to creep in, and you answer it with action. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for full confidence. Stop waiting to feel ready. You become ready by moving. You gain confidence by showing up. You create perfect conditions by refusing to quit. Everything you need is already inside of you. It's not out there. It's not in them. It's in your commitment, your persistence, your resilience. Keep rising, even if it's quiet. Keep building, even if it's slow. Keep showing up, even if no one claps. Your breakthrough doesn't need an audience. It just needs you.